If you feel like nothing you try ever works, watch this. This video is not for everyone. I need to say this up front. This is for someone, and you will know whether this is you within the first 30 seconds. This is for the person who is genuinely stuck, not going through a rough patch stuck, but the deeper kind where you feel like you've tried a lot of things, but nothing's moved. Where you've put in the effort and the effort didn't really matter. You wake up each day, feels like heavy before it's even started. And this is the kind of stuck that you've been there long enough that you feel like nothing's going to change. You don't expect anything to change anytime soon. And you are starting to accept that whatever you do now makes no difference whatsoever and you're not going to get any different results. If that's you, this video is for you, and I made this for you because this is not to give you a pep talk. This is not to tell you that everything is going to be fine. It's to tell you exactly where you are and exactly why. Because I've been here, and I've been here for long enough to know the ins and outs and to share you my story. Because this is the time where I've been this version for a long time, and this is the version that I also hear from so many different people that I know it so well now. You feel like nothing you try works, not because you haven't tried, you have, you put in the effort, you put in the work, but you've also had the conversations, you've made the plans, and somewhere in the middle of all that trying, a conclusion has formed somewhere within that whatever I try, it doesn't work for me. And you see other people get to change, you see other people transform their lives, you see other people build something completely different, and you say, why not me? Like, my situation is different, my circumstances, and why is it that whatever I try, it doesn't work, but whatever someone else is trying, it works? And you start looking at that gap and you start comparing yourself to where they are at. This is the gap between where I am and where I need to be. And it seems so far away, whatever I try, whatever I do. And you start to give up hope that this is just what life is going to be. And you start accepting that. And you stop trying different things. You stop creating. And you stop moving that needle. And it feels like whatever happens, happens. And you're just like, that's cool. I accept that now. And this is the assessment. You start feeling like, oh, this is all evidence that it doesn't happen, doesn't make any difference whatever I do. But the thing is, whatever evidence you have right now up to your life, up to this point, this is the point in that direction. You're an intelligent person, you're drawing different reasonable conclusions from the data and available that you have, that you've accumulated over the time. But that's what makes this stage one so invisible, and it's so hard to escape. And this is the struggling stage, but also the victim stage, because where you start blaming others for whatever you do isn't happening. You start passing off the responsibilities. And that's the thought that runs on repeat. And it's not something that you're doing wrong. It's just something that we've been accumulated to believe because of society and people around us. People keep saying, "Oh, you've tried that, didn't work. Why are you doing it again?" And you start getting self doubts, right? And these are the thoughts that run on repeat. It won't work for me. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. There's no way out. Well, like, they don't feel like thoughts, right? They feel like facts. They feel like they're real. They feel like they feel true because it's been told by other people, and you start to believe that. And this is where the powerlessness doesn't feel like a choice. it's like it feels like a description of reality. It's like, oh yeah, it's true. Like whatever I'm doing doesn't seem to work. Why am I bothering anymore? And this is the cruel thing about this stage, because people around you often can't see it, and stage one isn't always visible, and it's not always the person who is visibly struggling. All right. Sometimes it's the person who keeps showing up time and time and again. You're everywhere, you're doing the work, you're putting the work in, and you keep going through the motions, and you keep feeling like you're performing this version of them that functions, but underneath you feel like nothing is moving. Whatever you do, nothing is moving. Now, the technical name for what's happening at stage one is like an external locus of control, which means you believe at the deepest level that the forces acting on your life come true from outside you. Like you're the passenger, whatever happens to you is determined by things you can't influence. The job, the upbringing, the economy, the relationship, the timing, other people. And I'm not saying these things aren't real, they are. I'm saying that as long as they have the wheel, you are going nowhere. So this is where you have to take control of the steering wheel. You have to start driving your life. You have to be accountable for the direction you want to go and start choosing where you want to go and where you want to steer. And this is the only question that really matters at stage one. And it isn't, how do I fix this? It isn't, what's the plan? Or it isn't even, what do I need to do next? It's one question, and it's very uncomfortable. Who is actually driving? Are you driving? Or are you letting someone else drive? And I want to tell you my stage one, the struggling stage, because, and not as a success story, it's not a success story with of a happy ending or tidy ending. As a place I actually lived, this is the only way that is useful to you if I describe it from the inside. Like, I grew up as a British born Chinese in a household shaped by my dad's gambling addiction and debt. And it is what it was, it's something that they go through. It's something that they accumulated in terms of habits, their lifestyle. It's nothing that I could have changed what they was doing. I was just a kid. But that was the addiction that my dad brought into remortgaging the family home, running through debts, credit cards, da 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 da. And I was only 13, 14 at that time when I actually knew what was actually really going on behind the scenes. Again, he was putting food on the table, bills were getting paid, we still had a shelter, we still had a house. So, I'm grateful. He did what he knew. Yes, he wasn't great with money, but, he wasn't taught that when he was, I think as soon as he was old enough, get married, move over and do what he did. That it's just part of it. But that's not the struggle part. The struggle part is where I was bullied in school. I also gave a lot of the power to other people. I didn't step up for myself. I just let life roll as it is. I struggled to show up for myself. I struggled to stand up for myself. And this type of confidence just did not happen for me. I had to go to martial arts. I had to learn how to defend myself and build up the discipline and the confidence to stand up for myself. But going back to this part is I want you to understand that during this period, I didn't have the framework that I have now. I had a story, and the story was like that. It was just this is this is just how it is for some of us. This is how it is for us who have language challenges and looking different in a community. And I started to believe that this is the opportunity that some people have, and we have a ceiling that I'm I struggled with. And this story isn't about like self pity or anything like that. It's just an honest assessment of the facts that I've had, the facts that said to me, "Oh, your dad can't hold things together. Money is a source of instability and shame." The facts also said that other people's lives open up in ways yours won't. And this is the things that I started to believe. So I was like, oh, there's no way out. There's no other things I can do. And here's the thing about the stage one story. It doesn't feel disempowering. It feels accurate. And the feeling of accuracy is what gives it power. The limiting beliefs that ran through at stage one weren't opinions I could argue myself out of with a bit of motivation. These were all conclusions drawn up from years of living in this reality. And the mind just does an amazing job of like finding all these evidence to confirm what it already believes. So when I looked at the world from stage one, I found evidence everywhere. People made it advantages that I didn't. I didn't know how to. The system was set up in ways that was benefiting other people, and my starting point made the thing that I wanted less likely to happen. And all of these things, I started closing up my mind, and all these closed loop of evidence just confirmed a closed conclusion. Like the 13-year-old that was working in a Chinese takeaway, he had something the adult version almost lost. Like that fire. Not happiness, that fire. The kind that comes from having no choice but to show up, and the kind that comes from necessity. The kind that just burns clear because there's nothing comfortable to soften it. And I had to step up, I had to show up, I had to build a stronger mentality. And whatever happened over that time, I learned how to perform, I learned how to show up, I learned how to get behaviors that got approval. I started to obviously start going to college, graduating, getting a job, and started climbing that ladder. I started to get the titles, got into corporate, and this is where I was like accumulating approval and validation from people. But after I started accumulating all these external things, my fire also went out. I started to fade within. Not because I was like, I stopped working hard, I kept working hard. I worked so hard to burn out that I nearly lost my life. But I was working hard in the wrong direction. It wasn't what I wanted. And the story from stage one is that ceiling, about the limited opportunity for things that's not working for me, for people like me. And I was just blaming other people. This is the victimhood started to happen within. But that victimhood and blaming sounded like a strategy, and it sounded a very good one too. It felt sensible to blame my way out of things because I didn't feel like it was achievable. I didn't feel like what I was going for was achievable. And underneath all of this, it's that story that keeps drawing that conclusion. handing over the power to circumstances that I had decided were beyond me. And I started giving it to other people. I started giving the steering wheel to other people. I let other people steer and drive. And that's stage one. It doesn't look the same for everyone. Sometimes it's loud and visible. Sometimes it's quiet and logical. That it wears the mask of self-awareness. And it's always the same shape. The invisible hand on the wheel that isn't yours. And I want to spend a moment on this because it's the part of stage one where most people don't say out loud. This is the invisible prison. This is the one that just doesn't, you can't see. It's one that you have to really look at self-awareness in terms of finding it. And the limiting beliefs at stage one isn't necessarily wrong in isolation. They often contain a lot of real data, history, stories, real pain. The gambling addict dad that I had was real. The family debt was real. The circumstances that made the ceiling feeling low, these were real circumstances. And these are all hands that I had to play with. And that's exactly why the stage one prison is invisible. It's built from true things. The problem isn't the data. The problem is the conclusion the data is being used to justify. So the fact that my dad was a gambling addict is a fact. We never had financial stability. This is a story that built on the fact. My upbringing was difficult. Yes, I was bullied a lot. I had a lot of struggles with language, grammar, English, studies wasn't that great as well. That's a fact. Therefore, I don't have access to the same opportunities. Again, this is built on the facts that I had accumulated. So the story takes the fact and extends it into the future, and it started to lead me to believe there's no way out. And it turns something that happened into something that will always be. And that extension, therefore, is where that prison is built. And what makes it worse? This story feels protective, it feels safe. Because if you don't expect much, you can't be disappointed. And if you don't try too hard, you can't fall too visibly. And if you keep the ceiling low, at least you don't have far to fall. You see where this is going? And stage one isn't cruelty, it's self-protection. This is where your head wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you secure. It wants to keep you protected from going out beyond what you think is possible. And in this situation, things feel unpredictable and unsafe, and therefore the problem is that you're still carrying it in a different life, in a different decade, different circumstances, and same story, same conclusion. That invisible hand. And I carried mine for years before I noticed it. Not because I wasn't smart enough to see it, because it was so close, so internal, so engraved in how I understood myself and the world, and trying to see the water that you're swimming in. You don't see it, you just experience it as reality, right? And until something names it, someone says, that's not the truth, that's just the story. You have no reason to question it. So I'm naming it now. That's not the truth, that's a story. And that's where I started to make that shift. This is the shift that moves you out of stage one. And I want to be very clear about what is and what it isn't. Because this is the most understood thing in personal development. 100% responsibility, not fault. Responsibility. The difference is everything. Fault is about the past. Who caused this? Who is to blame? Whose action created this situation? And I will tell you, what happened to you may not have been your fault. My Dad's gambling addiction was not my fault. The debt was not my fault. The circumstances I grew up in were not my fault. I'm not asking you to take fault for what happened. I'm asking something different. Responsibility is what you choose to do next. It's about the forward direction. It's about recognizing that however you got here, whatever combination of circumstances and other people's choices and luck and timing put you where you are, exactly where you need to be. And from this moment forward, the authorship is yours. Not because it's fair, not because you asked for the starting position, but because the alternative. Handing that authorship to the past and to other people, to circumstances, means never getting to be the one driving. And you will spend the rest of your life in the passenger seat. When I made this shift, and I want to be honest, it wasn't a single dramatic moment. It was more like a slow, reluctant realization that became a decision. The first thing I felt wasn't empowerment, it was grief. Grief for the years that I spent sitting in the passenger seat. Grief for the version of me that had accepted the story without questioning it. Grief for the fire that the 13-year-old had that the adult had to let go quietly. And then underneath the grief, something else. Space. A gap between the story and what might be possible if the story was wrong. Not certainty, just space. And that space, that small space, is where stage 2 begins. Not in a transformation, not in a breakthrough way, but in a quiet, private decision to stop being authored by what happened in the past and start being the author of what comes next. 100% responsibility. And say it to yourself, not out loud, in your chest, where the real decisions live. I am 100% responsible for my life from this moment onwards. Not for what happens, but for what comes next. And that's the door. And it's not going to be comfortable. It doesn't feel good immediately. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because it means giving up the story that has been protecting you, but it is the door. And on the other side of it is a life that is actually yours. And you could be opening multiple doors. Not all doors are for you, but some doors are for you. But you won't know until you start trying opening other doors. I want to leave you with this. If you recognize yourself in stage 1 during this video, if this is something that landed in the first 10 minutes, the way that felt uncomfortable, in a way that true things sometimes are, I want you to hear something. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not deficient. You are not someone who doesn't get to change because of circumstances, of your starting point, because things were too difficult. You are at stage 1, and stage 1 is the beginning, not the end. Every person has a different stage 1. And every person has built a life they actually want. Every person has a stage 5. Living the limit break lifestyle, creating from love, starting at stage 1. And some of them started with harder circumstances than yours. Some with easier ones. But they all started at stage 1. Because stage 1 is where everyone starts. The question is whether you're willing to stay there. I built an assessment and it takes a couple of minutes. It confirms which stage you're at. And it tells you the specific thing that is keeping you there. The link is in the description, and take it in a very honest way. Answer all the questions honestly. And if stage 1 is where it lands, and if this video is described more clearly than you're comfortable with, there's also an application if you're ready for the Limit Breakers community. And those that are in stage 1, if this is where you are at, you'll get the option to probably sign up to Reclaim Your Power, which is a free training session, online training course. And it goes from there onwards to stage 3. And if you're at stage 3, you'll be eligible and ready to sign up for the Limit Breakers community. Take the question assessment as honest as you can, see what stage gets you, and then go through the next steps that I recommend you. Live life with no limits. See you on the other side.